Welcome to the video. My name is Pushpinder Gill, and today we are going to do simple interest. This is the first video on simple interest, and this is my email address here, and this is going to be my name. So let's go ahead and get started, right? So first of all, what happens? Let's suppose you've got a lot of money, you won a lottery or something, right? So you have, let's say, P amount of money, and you go to the bank and deposit the money, right? So you go to the bank and you deposit that money. So bank provides you some rate of interest, right? So bank over here provides you some rate of interest over your money, and overall it keeps the money for some number of years. Let's say it keeps the money for T years. Fine. And then in the end you receive an increased amount of money, right? So let's suppose you invested P, so right now you're going to get A, that is your amount. So this is the simple process of simple interest. You have some money, you deposit into a bank, the bank gives you R% rate of returns, and you keep the money for this many years. In the end you get this much amount back. So I hope every point is clear. So now let's just elaborate on each of the points and let's study. So the first point that we're going to study is the rate. Well, you already know, you go to the bank and you invest some rupees. So let's suppose you invest $100 in a bank, and the bank is giving you 10% rate of interest per annum. Now what do you mean by per annum? Means every year. Annum means year. Every year your money is going to increase by 10%. So if you've already watched the percentage video, you must have understood that if anything increases by 10%, it gets multiplied by this number, right? So it's recommended that you watch the percentage video as well. So every year the money is it's increasing by 10%, right? So 10% of $100, which is nothing but $10. So $10 means after 1 year I'm going to receive $110, or even if I multiply 100 by this, I get 110. Fine. So 10% per annum means every year I'm going to receive 10% of the money that I have invested with the bank or with any other institution. Okay, now the another thing is principal. Principal is the money that you invest. So these are the few keywords where you can identify okay, this is the particular thing. This is called principal. So something that you invest, something that you loan or you take loan, something that you borrow. So all this is nothing but your principal, right? So whenever you invest something, you loan something, or you borrow something, so this is all principal, right? So it's the initial money that you invest. Then is the amount. Amount is nothing but the money that you receive back. Now what is the money that you receive back? Let me call it by A. A is equal to the principal that you invested plus your earnings, right? Whatever interest did you earn. So this is nothing but the amount that you get back after your money has been increased, right? So this is what amount is. Now let's just get down to some real stuff. Now you know, I've already told you that amount is equal to principal plus your earnings. So what are your earnings in this case? Is the interest that you earn, right? So earnings are nothing but the interest that you earn. Now let's see how this interest is calculated, right? Let's see how this interest is calculated. Now let's suppose you invest P dollars into a bank. So you invest P dollars and the bank is giving you R% rate of return every year. That means every year you are going to receive R% of money from the bank. So every year you're going to receive this much money from the bank because you invested P dollars and R% is your rate of return. That means R% of what you've invested is what you'll be getting every year. So if you have invested the money for T years, so I can say that this much amount, it will be your total interest for T years. So I can say that interest is equal to principal rate time by 100. Right? So this is how we calculate interest. It's principal rate time by 100. Now as we all know that amount is equal to principal plus interest. So amount is equal to principal plus interest. So what if I say amount is equal to principal plus, instead of interest I add this expression here, that is principal rate time by 100. So from this I can also say that amount is equal to, if I take the principal common out, amount is equal to principal 1 plus rate into time by 100. Now if you watched my percentages video, this would look familiar to you. This is nothing but the same thing, that product is equal to base into integrating factor, right? So that means amount is nothing but the principal increased by R% times T years, right? Let's suppose if I ask you a simple question, I say, okay, principal is $100, rate is 20%, time is, let's say, 2 years. Fine. So if principal is $100, rate is 20%, time is 2 years, that means either you substitute this formula and you'll get the answer, or you know that 20% is increasing every year. For 2 years it will increase by 40%, and you increase 100 by 40%, you get your amount to be 140, right? So this way also you can solve the question. You need to understand this expression here. Fine, right? So I hope everyone is understanding what I'm trying to state here, that one thing that we established is that interest is principal rate time by 100, and amount is principal into the integrating factor, that is R% increase times T. Fine. Okay. Now let's see this question. A sum of 16,000 amounts to 18,400 in 2 years. What is the rate of interest? Okay, so there are two ways to do that question. In fact, there's only one way, but I'm going to show you how you can approach this question in two ways. First of all, using the simple way. You know that principal is equal to 16,000, and you know that amount is equal to 18,400, and you know that the time is equal to 2 years. Fine. And what do you need to find? You need to calculate the rate of interest. So I can say that amount is equal to principal 1 plus rate into time by 100. This is the only expression that you need to remember in order to calculate the amount. That's pretty much more than enough. So amount is equal to principal 1 plus rate into time by 100. You know the principal, you know the amount, you know the time. Calculate it. Just this you know, this you know, and this you know. All you need to calculate is the rate. Now what is another way to solve this question? You see, if you understand this, you know that amount upon principal will give you the integrating factor, or it will give you, if you watch the percentage video, it will give you that magic number. So if you do amount upon principal, in case, let's suppose in exams such as GRE, you already have the use of a calculator. Try calculating it, right? So if you try calculating this, let's suppose it comes out to be something like 1.2. So if it is 1.2, that means it's an increase of 20%. 20% in 2 years, that means an increase of 10%. I'm just hypothetically saying, okay, let's suppose this comes out to 1.2. So I suppose you're understanding, right? So if this you can do pretty easily if you have a calculator. You can just do within 2 steps, boom, the answer is yours. Fine. So this is a standard way of doing it. This is again good way of doing it, but it would require a little bit of understanding, deep understanding of the concept. So you divide this, and this comes out to be 1.2. That means it's an increase of 20%. That means 20% increase for 2 years. That means it's 10% increase. Either you can always follow this. This is a pretty standard approach. Fine. Now let's go ahead and move forward. Okay, now certain sum amounts to 3720 in 3 years at 8% simple interest. What is the principal amount? So in this question, you already know that amount is equal to 3720. Fine. So what you need to do, you need to see what you have and what do you need. So the time is nothing but 3 years, and the rate is nothing but 8%. Fine. And he's asking you what is the principal amount. So if you know this expression, you can easily calculate the principal amount. So if you know this expression, just substitute into that and you'll be able to find the answer. You see how does this one simple expression helps you to calculate these questions. Fine. So you know the amount, all you need to do is you need to find the principal, right? So it's nothing that even if you want to calculate it in a normal way, like in a quicker way, you know that rate it's 8% and it's for 3 years. That means overall the rate was 24%. Now the principal got increased by 24% and it became this. That means my principal is nothing but 3720 divided by 1.24. Right? If you watch the percentage video, you will be able to understand it in a better way, right? This part, because see, rate was 8%, for time was 3 years. That means for 3 years it is going to increase by 24%. Anything increasing by 24% becomes 124% of itself, or I can say it gets multiplied by 1.24. So the principal when got multiplied by 1.24 became 3270. That means principal is nothing but 3270 by 1.24, right? So this you can easily calculate it. So I suppose you'll get your answer to be 3000, accurately 3000. So okay, this is another easy way to solve this question. Now let's just understand. Let's see. So there is a concept called allegation which we learn in the averages topic. I'm going to use that concept over here. Fine. So now allegation is a very wonderful concept. Now what is the allegation concept? If you have let's suppose I say, okay, 3 pigs weigh 4 kg on average, 6 cows weigh 3 kg on an average. So how we are going to calculate the average weight of cows and pigs? You will say 3 into 4 plus 6 into 3 divided by 3 plus 6. So this is the way you will calculate the average weight of pigs and cows both. So if I say there are n1 pigs and their average weight is A1, and there are N2 cows and their average weight is A2. So how are you going to calculate that? So that means the total average weight will be equal to N1 A1 plus N2 A2 divided by N1 plus N2. Now if you rotate this equation, if you try taking this to this side and taking some things to be common, you'll get N1 upon N2 to be equal to A2 minus A upon A minus A1. So you'll get this, right? So this is nothing but, if I draw it in a diagram, I can say that if I keep A1 here, I keep A2 here, I keep A here, this minus this is going to give me this, and this minus this is going to give me this. So let's suppose if I ask you a question like say the average weight of boys in the class is 50 kg, the average weight of girls in the class is 30 kg. If there are more girls in the class, then where will be the average weight of all the class be? It will be towards the girls' weight, because there are more girls in the class. That means the total average weight of these two quantity depends upon the ratio of the ratio of their quantities. And this is how you calculate the ratio. For more understanding, you'll be an allegation video which you should watch, and in this I would be explaining the allegation concept in complete depth, right? So this is something you should only learn the allegation right now, as whenever two things mix, they have their corresponding averages or their corresponding percentages, and the ratio in which they mix, this is what is made, and this ratio is this minus this, and this ratio is this minus this. So how do you use that in interest? Right? Now let's see a question. Now John has $12,000. He lent a certain portion of this money at 7% simple interest, and remaining to be at 12% simple interest. And in 3 years, he altogether received $3,600 as interest from A and B. Then sum lent to B is what? Now if you clearly see here, he invested $12,000 and he got $3,600 back, but in 3 years. That means per year he got $1,200 back, and this $1,200 is what percent of 12,000? Is 10% of 12,000. So that means overall he received 10% rate of return. So in A, if you just visit that diagram in the previous slide, A was invested at 7%, the money in B was invested at 12%, and overall he got 10% return. That means it will be in the ratio 12 minus 2 is 10 and 10 minus 7 is 3. So you don't need to worry about the negative values, just take the modulus, always take the positive value. That means the money was divided in A ratio B in 2 ratio 3. Now he is asking what is the sum lent to B. The sum as the part of the ratio was 3 by 5, which was lent to B, because it's 2 ratio 3, so 3 by 5 was lent to B, and 3 by 5 of 12,000 will give me how much sum was given to B. So if you calculate it, it's gonna come out to $7,200. So you see how easy the question became. So whenever you're going to mix two things and one thing is gonna come out of it, always remember to use allegation wherever. Its application is in profit and loss, its application is in time and work, time, speed, distance, mixtures, allegations, everywhere. So everywhere this concept is used. So you need to understand. You can't afford to not to learn this concept and sit in your GRE, GMAT or CAT examination. You need to learn this concept. This is very important. Fine. So I hope everyone understood. So whenever two things mix, they mix in a certain ratio. That ratio is given by keep the first thing here, keep the second thing here, keep the overall thing here. This would be 12 minus 10 2, 7 minus 10 3, right? Just take the positive value. So it got divided in 2 ratio 3. So I hope everyone understood the allegation concept, how it is used in interest. I've tried to explain the allegation concept again in this video, but it is not in that clarity which I would have explained. For that you would need to watch the allegation video, right? So let's see what happens when money doubles, right? So I'm just trying to show you something here. What happens when money doubles? Let's suppose John here invest P dollars into a bank account. So if he invest P dollars in a bank account, how much is he going to get back if the money doubles? He's going to get 2P. Right? So if the money doubles, he invests P and he gets the 2P back. So if I use it in the formula, I can say amount is equal to principal into 1 plus rate into time by 100. So this is what is going to give me the complete formula. So if I see this P and P is getting cancelled, right? And I can say 2 is equal to 1 plus RT by 100. Now let me take this 1 to this side. I can say 1 is equal to RT by 100, or I can say that R into T is equal to 100. So if the money doubles, R into T, that is the product of rate and time, is 100. Now you would be asking yourself, oh my god, how many such things do I have to remember? Believe me, I always teach universal concepts. So if let's suppose money triples, if money triples, it becomes 3 times of itself. Here will be a 3 here. This would cancel, and then R into T would be 200. If money becomes 4 times, R into T would be 300. 5 times, R into T is 400. N times, R into T is N minus 1 into 100. Right? So if let's suppose I say money becomes 3 times, so R into T is 200. Right? If I say money becomes 4 times, R into T is 300, just 1 less than that and 100. So if I say money becomes N times of itself, if money becomes N times of itself, that means R into T is N minus 1 into 100. Now this might seem to be a very difficult concept, but it's very easy for you to remember it. Okay, if money becomes N times, I know R into T is N minus 1 times 100. So for that would be very easy for you to calculate things and go about with the question. Now if I don't give you money becomes N times, I tell you money grows by N times. So what is the difference between money becomes N times, or I say money becomes N times, and money grows by N times? So let's suppose this is money is becoming N times. So if I invested $2, now I'm going to receive $2N, right? Because money has become N times. Now money grows by N times. Grows by N times means if it was $2 right now it will become 2 into 1 plus n. This is going to be, it grows by n times, means whatever it is right now, it is going to be n times more. I hope you're understanding. Let me just take one more example. Let's suppose money doubles here and money increases by double, right? Increases by 2 times, let's say. If money doubles here and over here money increases by 2 times. So if I invested $10, I'll get $20 here. Fine. Now over here, if I get $10, I'm going to get 10 plus double, that is 20, that is $30. So that means there is a difference between money becoming n times and money growing by n times. I hope you're understanding. So if money is becoming n times, then R into T is n minus 1 into 100. Right? What is this n minus 1? This is nothing but the growth. This is nothing but the growth of money. Let's suppose money became double. That means it grew by 1 time. Money became 3 times. It grew by 2 times. So in this, I don't need to multiply. In this, I just need to say R into T is n into 100. Fine. So R into T is n times 100. That's what I need to say. I hope everyone is understanding that over here when money becomes n times, it's R into T is n minus 1 into 100. And if money grows by n times, R into T is n times 100. So that's how you would solve this question. So whichever value is given to you, you go about and just substitute this thing and you'll get the answer. Fine. Okay, so certain sum gets doubled in 2 years according to simple interest. The rate of interest is, so it gets doubled. So if it gets doubled, I know R into T is 100. So if R into T is 100 and T is 2 years, that means R is 50%. So you see how easily we are able to solve these questions now. You don't need any other formula or any other thing. You know, if money doubles, R into T is 100. In 2 years, that means rate is 50%. Fine. Okay. David invested a sum of money which became 16 by 9 of itself in 18 years. According to the simple interest, the rate of interest is what? So R into T is, again, it is becoming 16 by 9 times. So it is going to be R into T is 16 by 9 minus 1 into 100. Fine. And I know T is 18 years. So what is 16 by 9 minus 1? That is nothing but 16 minus 9, that is 7 by 9 into 100. So that means my rate of interest is nothing but 700 by 18 into 9. So this approximate value you can calculate. So you see how easy the question is becoming now. You don't need to do anything about it. Just one plug in substitute the value of 1 and you get your answer. Fine. So I hope it's clear to everyone. It's pretty simple use of what we have learned till now. Okay. Now the next point in simple interest is that amount always increases in arithmetic progression. Let me tell you how. Let's suppose I go to a bank and I invest P dollars, right? I went to the bank and I said, okay, here's P dollars, take it and give me some R% rate of returns or whatever it is. Now the next year, what is going to happen? Next year I'm going to receive P plus I. What is this I? I is my interest for 1 year. After 2 years, if I go, I'm going to receive P plus 2I. 2I is nothing but the interest for 2 years. So if I see over here, this is nothing but an arithmetic progression, right? This is nothing but an arithmetic progression and it is increasing by a factor of I. That means it is increasing by a factor of I every time, right? So I hope you're understanding this thing. Now let's apply this into some questions. Now, according to simple interest, certain sum amounts to this much in 2 years and this much in 4 years. I have to calculate the initial sum. Even if you don't know the formula or anything, you can still answer these questions. How? See, if you apply the formulas, yeah, you can calculate it. But let's find a logical way. See, it is becoming a 1250 in 2 years. So in 2 years, it is becoming 1250. Fine. And it is becoming 1375 in 4 years. So That means within this period of 2 years, it increased by, see, you know that every year it increased by the same value. So within this period of 2 years, it increased by the value that is this minus this. So what is that value? That is 1375 minus 1250, which is nothing but 125. So it increased by $125 every 2 years. So every 2 years it increases by $125. And what is principal? Principal is nothing but my whatever money I had in 0 years, right? That is my principal is. So if I have to go again 2 years back, I will subtract these 2 years again, and if I subtract 2 years from it, I would have to subtract 125 from it. So my answer would be nothing but 1250 minus 125. So I hope everyone is understanding what I'm trying to show over here. It's going to be 1025. I'm sorry, 1125. Fine. So I hope everyone is understanding what I'm trying to do here. See, in a period of 2 years, it increased by 125. If I have to go back again by 2 years back, it will be again a difference of 125. That means it will be 1125. Fine. So let's see another question. According to simple interest, certain sum amounts to 1250 in 2 years and 1375 in another 4 years. So again, this is a similar kind of question. It is becoming 1250 in 2 years and it is becoming 1375 in another 2 years. That means it is becoming 1375 in 6 years, 2 years after 4 years after this 2 years. Then again, it is increasing by a factor of 125 in 4 years. Fine. So it is increasing by a factor of 125 in 4 years. That means in a period of 2 years, it is going to increase by half of it. That is nothing but 62.5. Fine. So in a period of 2 years, it is going to increase by 62.5. If I have to go back 2 years again to the 0th year, I'll subtract 62.55 from it and I'll get my answer as this. Fine. So I hope everyone is understanding what I'm trying to explain here. You have to just understand the question and go about with the question, and you'll be able to solve the question. Okay, let's see this question. According to simple interest, a sum gets 4 times in 9 years and 6 times in another n years. Find n. Right? So let's try using the logical way, right? So it is becoming 4 times in 9 years, 6 times in another n years. So let's see the logical way. Let's suppose I invest X dollars and it is 0 years right now. So it is becoming 4 times in 9 years. That means it is increasing by 3x in 9 years. Fine. And 6 times in another n years. Now let's see how much time will it take to become 6 times. So it has already become 4 times of itself in 9 years. So if it increases by 3 times in 9 years, from this I can deduce that it will increase by 1 time. 1 time increase will be there in every 3 years. If it increases by 3 times in 9 years, every year it will increase by every 3 years it will increase by 1 time. So 1 time 3 years, 1 time 3 years. Fine. That means it is going to become 6 times of itself in that was what 9 plus 3 plus 12 plus in 15 years. However, in this question he is asking in another n years. That means after 9 years, how many years it is? So after 9 years, 15 years will come in 6 years. Fine. So I hope everyone is understanding what I'm trying to do over here. It was 1 time in 0 years, it became 3 times. That means 4 times. It increased by 3 times in 9 years. That means every 3 years it increases by 1 time. So 4 times in 9 years means 6 times in 15 years. So he's asking another n years after 6 years, that is 6 times. Fine. Now let's try that R and T approach. Now it is becoming 4 times in 9 years. That means R into T is nothing but 300. because this is what 4 times it is, and I know t is equal to 9 years. So that means r is equal to 100 upon 3. So if I calculate, I get from this, I take 9 here and I get it's to be 100 by 3. Let's not get into decimals here, let's keep it like that only. And he's asking it will become 6 times. So once it becomes 6 times, then r into t is equal to 500, because the money is becoming 6 times, and I know r is what, 100 by 3 into t is equal to 500. From here I get my t to be 15 years. So it is asking in another n years. So last time it was 9 years, now it is 15 years. That means in another 6 years it will become 6 times of itself. Fine. So I hope everyone is understanding this question over here, right? So let's move forward. Okay, if the sum of money becomes 3 times in 10 years, what is the rate of simple interest? Now this, okay, you guys can easily do it, right? Let me do it verbally. That r into t is 200, so that means r is 20%. We can easily say it's becoming 3 times, so that means r into t is nothing but 200. 3 times means 200. In 10 years, substitute 10 instead of t, so that means r is going to give me, this is gonna cut as 20%. So this is my answer. So I hope everyone understood this question. You don't need any big equations into this, just need to understand it's becoming 3 times, so r into t is 200. Fine. So this was about the video, and please practice and all, do watch the percentage video in case you have not understand the concept of allegation. I'm sorry, do watch the allegation video and the percentage video. So these are the both videos which are interconnected with it. Fine. So this was the first video on simple interest. There will be more videos coming on compound interest and some more on simple interest as well. This is my email address. Don't forget to send me your valuable feedback. Like us on Facebook as well. Alright, and that would be it. So thank you very much, and see you next video.